everybody, and welcome to Chef's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to be making Barm Brack, or Irish tea loaf. Now this is a loaf cake which is full of fruit, and it's traditionally eaten, I think, around Halloween, but I like this type of loaf anytime, and because of our current circumstances I thought I would try to make something with ingredients that may be readily available in people's cupboards. So it's going to be flour and sugar and fruit and egg, no butter, and some tea. Now you can vary the amounts of fruit you can put in, and you can put some whiskey in instead of some of the tea if you want to infuse some extra flavour in. But it's simple to make, and I start off by preheating my oven to 180 Celsius, that's 160 Celsius with a fan, 350 Fahrenheit. And I've lined a 2-pound loaf tin. I've greased it and lined it with parchment paper, ready to take the batter when it's prepared. So we'll go on to the ingredients, and for this I have 225 grams of plain flour. That works out at about 1.5 cups plus 1 teaspoon of plain flour. I have 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of mixed spice. Now you could reduce the amount of mixed spice if you don't want the cake to have the spices in, or you could vary the spices. If you don't have mixed spice, you could use a little bit of cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves, whatever. Not too much of the cloves though, it's rather strong. I have 1 medium egg which I've beaten lightly. I have 125 grams of light brown sugar, and that works out at 1/2 cup plus 2 tablespoons. Again, if you don't have light brown sugar, you can use granulated sugar, that would work fine, or caster sugar. And then I have 375 grams of mixed fruit, dried mixed fruit. In my case, this is basically dried raisins and sultanas, and some of the raisins are very large. And what I did with that was I poured over 300 millilitres, which is 1.25 cups of black tea, which I'd made the tea, I let it cool down, and I poured it over, and I left it to soak for at least 6 hours. I've left mine overnight, in fact. Now, you could, if you wanted to, take some of the tea out and only use maybe 1 cup of tea and 1/4 cup of whiskey. Some people do that. I'm not doing it. I don't see the need for it in a cake like this. But if you like that, then you can do that. So, the first thing I'm going to do is to pour my soaked fruit into a strainer. And I'm just going to leave that for the liquid to drain out. We'll use some of that liquid in the cake, but maybe not all of it. We'll see. And then what I'm going to do is to put the sugar, the baking powder, and the mixed spice into the flour. I'm just going to mix that around. It doesn't matter if there's if the sugar clumps a little bit, it will break up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my egg in, and I'm going to add the liquid a bit at a time. I want to mix it around till I've got a fairly wet batter, but I may not need all that liquid. as you can see, that's mixed in, but I'm just going to put a little bit more. So I've used nearly all of the liquid, but not quite all of it. It's difficult to quantify the amount because we start off with 300 millilitres, and a lot of it gets absorbed into the fruit as they soak. So to quantify how much to put in, it's just by the look and feel of the dough, really, or the batter, should I say. And I think that looks quite reasonable. So I'm going to add my fruit in, and I'm going to mix that until it's all combined. Now I should also say that you could vary the amount of fruit that you put into this cake. If you don't want it as full as this, then you could use less, and you could put some cherries in if you wanted, some cranberries or anything really. I'll go down to the bottom to make sure I'm mixing it thoroughly, and then that's going to go into my cake tin, or my loaf tin, should I say. I'm just going to level that out. Like that. And then I'm going to put that into the oven, and I'm going to bake it for about an hour. It will rise and it should firm up, so I'm going to bake it till it firms up. I would say from an hour to an hour and a quarter. Then I'm going to take it out and let it cool down, and once it's cooled down I'll come back and show you the results. I'm back with you, and our Barmbrack, the Irish tea loaf, has now baked, and it's still a little bit warm, but it's cooled down. I left it in the tin for 15 minutes, then I took it out and put it onto a wire rack. Ideally they recommend, I think, that you wrap the Barmbrack in aluminium foil and then plastic wrap, and store it for a couple of days before eating it. It's to allow the flavours to develop more fully, I suppose. But for the purposes of my video, I've cut mine now so that we can taste it, and this is what it looks like. So I let mine bake for 68 minutes. I actually put a skewer in to see how sticky it was. It's going to be moist, it's going to be a dense moist cake, but I thought after 68 minutes that it was firm enough and it was cooked. And the fruit is nice and juicy from soaking in that tea. So I'm just going to break a piece off and have a taste. It does have a lovely flavour to it, and that fruit, there's not too much sugar in the cake, but that juiciness of the fruit gives a nice sweetness as well. As I say, you can add whiskey in, which you give it a little different flavour if you want to. I don't like whiskey, so I didn't put any in mine. I don't think it absolutely needs it. And this is ideal when it's cold, with butter on, and you can have it, just sort of spread some butter on it and have it with a cup of tea, and such like. Very, very good indeed. So I hope you've enjoyed this recipe. If you have, please give me the thumbs up below the video and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, which will take you to this recipe, and I'll put a link for it below the video as well. And then I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.